Chances are you've dealt with this company, maybe even just this week, but I'm willing to bet you've never even heard their name. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on McKesson, the silent giant that's the real engine behind almost every pharmacy you've ever stepped into. You know, when you go to pick up a prescription, it seems so simple, right? But getting that one specific bottle from a warehouse into your hands involves this huge, incredibly high-tech network, all working behind the scenes. So who's the mastermind behind all of it? Well, when we start talking about the pharmacy of the future, our minds usually jump straight into sci-fi territory. You know the picture. Robotic arms zipping around, sorting pills with perfect precision, and automated systems filling prescriptions faster than any human ever could. It's this vision of flawless, super-fast efficiency, and honestly, it's not that far from reality. And right in the middle of this whole revolution, you'll find McKesson. But here's the thing. This isn't some new, flashy tech startup. We're talking about a global behemoth that was founded way back in 1833. Yeah, you heard that right. They're a true giant in healthcare. Okay, so with that kind of history and that kind of scale, you'd think they have to be the ones building all these futuristic pharmacy robots, right? Well, that's where the story takes a really interesting turn. I mean, it's the logical conclusion, isn't it? A company this massive, this involved in pharmacy automation, has to be making the machines. But the reality is completely different. So take a look at this timeline. It tells you everything. For years, McKesson was absolutely in the hardware game. They had a whole unit dedicated to pharmacy automation. But then you get to 2013, and they sold it. They got out of the robot-making business entirely, more than a decade ago. Which, leads us to the billion-dollar question. If they're not the ones building the machines anymore, how on earth are they still a dominant force in a field that seems to be all about the machines? And the answer is pretty brilliant, actually. McKesson decided to pivot. They chose not to be the muscles of the pharmacy, the physical robots, but to become its brain and nervous system instead. Let's start with the brain. This is their incredibly sophisticated software platform. I want you to think of it like the operating system for the entire pharmacy. It manages literally everything, from the moment a prescription comes in to the moment it's handed to a patient. It makes the whole operation smarter. And then you've got the nervous system. This is where their nearly 2 centuries of logistics experience comes into play. They connect that smart software to their massive global supply chain. This is how they guarantee the right pills get to the right pharmacy at exactly the right time. And finally, they play the role of the coach. See, they don't just sell some tech and walk away. They provide expert consulting to help pharmacies deal with market changes, run their business better, and ultimately be more profitable. It's the whole package. Okay, so this brain, nervous system, and coach strategy sounds great, but what does it actually do for a real-world pharmacy? Well, it solves some of their biggest, most annoying problems. First up, a problem we have all felt, waiting in that long line at the pharmacy. Pharmacies get totally bogged down with all these manual tasks, and that creates bottlenecks that just slow everything to a crawl. So here's their solution. Software like EnterpriseRx. It's designed specifically to automate and streamline all those boring manual tasks. This frees up the pharmacists so they can actually focus on patient care, on you, and it just makes the whole place run so much more smoothly. All right, here's another huge headache, especially for big pharmacy chains: managing inventory. How do you make sure hundreds of stores all have what they need without having way too much of something just sitting on the shelves? The answer is all about centralizing the data. Their system allows these massive chains to balance their workload and their inventory across every single location. So a pharmacy that's having a slow day can actually help fill prescriptions for another one that's getting slammed. It creates this incredibly efficient, scalable network. So, does this strategy actually work? Well, the numbers kind of speak for themselves, don't they? With revenues over $300 billion, let that sink in. Their impact on the healthcare system is just absolutely massive. They're an economic powerhouse. So, what's the big takeaway here? How does a company that doesn't even make robots anymore come to dominate the world of pharmacy automation? It all comes down to focusing on the entire ecosystem. The myth is that they're a robot maker, competing on things like machine speed and specs. But the reality is that they're an ecosystem enabler. They sell a completely integrated system, software, logistics, and services that makes the entire workflow better, not just one little physical task. So, if you remember one thing, let it be this. McKesson figured out that the real, lasting power isn't in the hardware itself. It's in the invisible software and logistics network that ties everything together and makes all the parts work intelligently. And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating question to chew on. As we look ahead to a future that's only going to get more automated, where does the real innovation happen? Is it in the shiny new robots we can see and touch, or is it in the complex, invisible systems that are actually running the show?